The forest exploded with the howl of shattered hope. Pups gone, pack broken, and an alpha bloodied but unbowed. Shadows moved like ghosts, eyes burning with vengeance and grief. The hunters thought they had won, but what happened next will shock even those who thought they'd seen everything. But first, let's go back to the beginning. The forest lay fractured, its heartbeat irregular and faint. The pack that had once thrived under Jackson's unyielding protection now existed in splinters. Broken families scattered like leaves in the relentless wind. The night of the attack had left scars deeper than flesh could show. The cries of lost pups haunted the hollowed woods, and silence settled over the once vibrant territory like a suffocating shroud. Jackson prowled through the debris of his shattered world, his fur matted with blood and dirt, eyes dulled by exhaustion, but burning with a singular, fierce purpose. Each step pressed into soft earth stained with the remnants of violence. Each breath was a testament to survival and defiance against the cruel twist of fate. Jackson's wounds throbbed, but pain was a secondary torment to the betrayal that clung to the trees, the ground, and the very air he breathed. The sanctuary that had nurtured life and kinship was invaded, desecrated by cold steel and callous intent. This was not the natural order. It was an assault by a world that refused to understand the delicate balance between predator and prey, between human and wild. The pack's collective spirit was fractured, the alpha's leadership challenged not by challengers within, but by a ruthless outside force that had shattered their unity. The pups, symbols of hope and continuity, were lost or scattered, and Jackson's howls carried the weight of that irreplaceable loss. In the deepest well of his soul, a primal grief roared alongside a relentless, smoldering rage. Yet amid the ruin, a faint ember of hope glimmered. It was Emily who kindled it, Emily with her unwavering conviction and a heart tethered by grief mirrored in Jackson's own. She moved through the forest with the careful grace of one who understood its rhythms and scars. To her, the wolves were not mere beasts, but vital threads woven into the ecosystem's fragile tapestry, necessary for balance and life. Years before, Emily had lost her brother in a similar clash, a wound she carried quietly beneath layers of scientific resolve and compassionate advocacy. That shared history with Jackson forged an unspoken bond, a recognition that their fates were intertwined by loss and the stubborn refusal to surrender. Their alliance was born out of necessity, forged in fire and tempered by a shared vision. Together, they navigated the perilous borderland where human encroachment met wild domain. Every movement was laden with risk, every choice a step closer to confrontation. But their mission transcended mere survival. It was a quest for justice, for restoration. Emily's voice was calm but resolute, urging Jackson to temper his primal fury with cunning and strategy. Brute force could not win this war. It would only perpetuate the cycle of violence and loss. Instead, she proposed a different path, one paved with cleverness, warning signals, and subtle disruption. Together, they devised a network of traps, not to maim or kill, but to send messages, to disrupt the hunter's advance and protect the vulnerable. Snare lines rigged with harmless but startling triggers, scent markers that would confuse and deter, cleverly placed alarms woven into the underbrush, all tools in a growing arsenal of resistance. This was guerrilla warfare in the wilderness, an intricate dance between predator and prey flipped on its head. Jackson learned to move with stealth, not just to hunt, but to outwit. Emily's expertise turned the forest itself into an ally, a living fortress against the encroaching threat. At night, under a canopy studded with cold stars, Jackson and Emily would pause to listen, ears attuned to the faintest crackle of leaves, eyes scanning the dark for movement. The forest had changed its voice. Once it sang with the harmony of life, now it whispered warnings, a vigilant sentinel. Jackson's pack was diminished, but not defeated. Each surviving wolf was a thread holding the fabric of their family intact. They moved cautiously, gathering stragglers where they could, nursing wounds seen and unseen, rebuilding trust in a world fractured by fear and hatred. This chapter of their story was one of endurance, a testament to resilience forged in the crucible of loss. Jackson's paternal instinct burned fiercer with each passing day, no longer just a guardian of pups, but a symbol of resistance against a relentless tide. Emily's dedication was unshaken, her hope a steady flame illuminating the dark paths ahead. Together they embodied the fragile but unbreakable bond between human and wild, between loss and hope, a force that no hunter's bullet could silence. The shattered pack was no longer merely surviving. It was awakening. The forest pulsed with an electric charge, every nerve in Jackson's body taut and humming as the final confrontation ripened like a storm ready to break. The hunters had entered a transformed wilderness, no longer a passive backdrop to their incursions, but a calculated, living trap woven by the combined intelligence and will of wolf and human alike. Underneath the ancient canopy, the air was thick with tension, a palpable current of energy that bridged species and histories, old wounds and new alliances. The scent of earth, pine resin, and musk intermingled with a sharper undercurrent of anticipation. This was no ordinary encounter. It was the culmination of months of strategizing, loss, and unyielding hope. The forest itself seemed to brace, holding its breath as the boundaries between hunter and hunted dissolved into something more profound and irrevocable. Jackson's eyes burned with a fierce light, the alpha's presence a magnetic force anchoring the pack's fractured spirit. Every member was alert, bodies coiled like springs beneath their thick fur, muscles ready to explode into motion. The protective circle, once broken and scattered, had been reforged not just by instinct, but by a conscious, deliberate choice. This was no mere defense of territory. It was a reclamation of dignity, a stand for survival threaded with the raw fabric of justice. Wolves from the fringes, once isolated and fearful, now gathered, drawn by the alpha's summons and Emily's unwavering human resolve. They moved as one, a swirling tempest of shadow and sound, a symphony of growls and howls that rippled through the woods like a challenge hurled straight into the heart of oppression. From the hunter's vantage, what had once seemed a simple hunt had morphed into a perilous ordeal. Their confident strides faltered as subtle alarms echoed, a snap here, a rustle there, signaling traps that demanded respect rather than evasion. The scent markers disoriented their dogs, causing anxious whines and fracturing the hunter's formation. Eyes darted nervously beneath wide-brimmed hats as a growing realization dawned. They were no longer masters of this domain. The forest had become a fortress shaped by the cunning of those it sought to protect. Shadows darted between trees, quicksilver silhouettes that vanished before shots could be fired, wolves' eyes gleaming with primal intelligence. The hunters found themselves encircled not just by wolves, but by a community forged in blood and conviction, united across species lines by a single, unyielding purpose. Doug, the most hardened among them, felt a fissure crack open inside his long-harbored animosity. He stood frozen for a heartbeat as a low, commanding howl cut through the thick night air, a sound that carried the weight of generations and the promise of survival. The alpha's stance was immovable, his eyes locked with Doug's in a silent reckoning. In that moment, years of hatred, fear, and desperation collided with an unexpected spark of respect. The rifle in Doug's hands felt suddenly heavy, the authority it once symbolized reduced to a fragile instrument between two forces whose conflict was no longer simple or absolute. Slowly, deliberately, he lowered the weapon, the gesture a trembling olive branch amidst the storm. The forest responded in kind, the howls crescendoing into a chorus that seemed to embrace both sides, stitching wounds with sound and presence. The fragile truce was not an end but a beginning, a mutual recognition that coexistence demanded sacrifice, understanding, and above all, respect. The pups, scattered and hidden during the violence, were gently coaxed back to their place at the heart of the circle. Their tentative steps echoed like a sacred promise, a new generation cradled by the united pack and human guardians. Each reunion was a pulse of life renewed, a testament to resilience that no bullet could extinguish. As dawn's first light filtered through the branches, the forest exhaled, bathed in gold and hope. Trees, once scarred by human encroachment, stood as witnesses to healing, their leaves whispering of second chances. The pack moved with renewed purpose, their circle a living emblem of triumph against crushing injustice. Word of their struggle spread beyond the tangled woods, carried on the wind to distant towns and cities where the story kindled fires of empathy and courage. The narrative of a battered family rising stronger, fueled by unity and love, resonated deeply, a beacon for all who had faced the darkness of loss and emerged willing to fight for justice. Jackson's circle transcended its original meaning. It was no longer merely a protective barrier, but a symbol, an unyielding testament that family and justice, however battered, could rise not only to survive, but to inspire. In the heart of the wild, beneath the watchful eyes of ancient stars, the pack stood tall, its spirit unbroken, a living testament to the fierce, enduring power of hope.